Hello everyone, this is God of Politics. I'm going to a brand new video, but before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But in today's video, I will be analyzing the primaries that we had on August 2nd. It is now August 6th, but I did want to leave a little bit of time for these results to settle. Some of them are still being decided, even as I'm making this video now. A few of them were just decided or were just called, a few hours ago, a day or so ago. But I did want to leave a little bit of time to settle, but I feel like now is a good time to analyze it, to kind of look at what a lot of these results are showing. Can we extrapolate anything from that in terms of the midterms, in terms of just general public policy? And you can see here that I am looking first at the Kansas abortion amendment, and this was obviously the biggest election, or I think most could agree that it was the biggest election of this primary date. We do have this referendum saying, should the Kansas Constitution be amended to remove protections of abortion rights? And most people thought that this referendum would be pretty close. I think polls had showed a slight lead for the yes side, but I think most people had generally accepted that this race could go either way. But I don't really think anyone predicted that no would win by this amount. I mean, 18 percentage points is just a massive victory for the pro-choice side here, and we can see that it outperformed pretty much everywhere, and in a lot of places by 20-30 points. I mean, these were ridiculous numbers that we're seeing. A lot of these rural counties only going in the 60s or so. When we look at the 2020 presidential election, these are counties that are going in the 80s, high 80s in some cases. And so you're seeing big shifts across the state. In Sedgwick County, of course, you had no going plus 15. This was a Trump plus 10 or 11 county. You had Johnson County going no by 37. This was only a Biden plus 8 county. That's almost a 30-point overperformance. You can see here in Shawnee County, no won by 33 percentage points. This was a county Biden only won by 2 percentage points, another 30-point overperformance. And you can see really this whole area in the eastern state over here voted no, and a lot of these other areas, while yes won, it did a lot worse than it should have, considering just how many Republicans are there. And there's been a lot of people trying to make explanations for this. They can say the wording was weird, they can say the timing was weird, but at the end of the day, the pro-choice side won here, and that's what we're seeing in a lot of these abortion ballot referendums. Now, this is the first one that we've had since Roe v. Wade was overturned, but there have certainly been a lot of them in the past. Of course, we can look at the state of Colorado, for example, which voted against banning abortions at 22 weeks by 17 percentage points. And this was labeled as a late-term abortion ban, and it was voted down by the voters of Colorado by more than what Biden wanted by. You can see here, going back into the 2010s, Florida voted against banning public funds for abortion. We can go to, I guess, some more famous examples. We can look at the state of Mississippi, where we can see here that they voted against defining a person as every human being from the moment of fertilization, cloning, or the functional equivalent thereof. That motion, that ballot initiative failed. We can look at an initiative in a state like West Virginia, for example, saying that they voted yes to remove the constitutional right, or saying that there was no constitutional right to an abortion. That only passed by 3 percentage points in a state that voted for Donald Trump by 40 points. And of course, you can find examples that lean a little bit more to the pro-life side. You can look at the state of Louisiana, for example. You can look at a few other examples, but at the end of the day, most pro-choice ballot initiatives, the pro-choice side usually prevails and usually outperforms the pro-life side. And what does that say? Well, we've seen a lot of polls that have showed that the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade is unpopular. Now, I think a lot of people can accept that. The real question is, will that have an effect on the midterms? Now, there's a lot of people who accept that the pro-choice side is generally more popular. Well, if you ask people whether they're pro-choice or pro-life, it's, more split. But if you ask them about specific provisions, about specific, exceptions, things like that, most of them will generally go to the pro-choice side. I would say it's around 60%. But will it have an effect on the midterms? I think that it will will have a slight effect. I think that we're already seeing it is having a slight effect on some of the polls. And again, the polls, can't necessarily be trusted, but it's the movement that is notable. So if you go from R+3 to D+1, the polls still may underestimate Republicans by 3 percentage points, but that 4-point movement is notable in that it's the same polls that are underestimating Republicans showing movement away from the Republicans. Now, that movement could be bad, that movement could be fake, that movement may not be accurate, but it is still notable and it still should be talked about. And when you have races that are going to be campaigned around abortion, it's probably going to help pro-choice candidates. I think an example of this could be in the state of Michigan. Now, this isn't going to be the case in all states. I think a state like Georgia, for example, is going to be much more evenly divided when it comes to the issue of abortion because it is a more southern state. It has more socially conservative voters. But if you look at a state like Kansas, it's in the Great Plains, the voters tend to not be as socially conservative. So that is part of the reason I believe that this ballot initiative failed here. So there's a lot of moving things at play here, but if you ask me, will this help Democrats in the midterms? I would say yes, but I don't think it's going to suddenly reverse a lot of the trends we're seeing, which is that the Republicans are having a good year, and they're going to have a good year despite a lot of these setbacks, I guess you could say, in terms of abortion, be it, of course, we're just speaking in terms of electability. I think most conservatives would still like to have Roe v. Wade overturned if it meant, even if it meant they were going to do bad in the midterms, but I don't think they're going to do bad in the midterms anyway. I think they'll still win the midterms. I just think that they probably will not do as well. Of course, there were a lot of other primaries that we have to look at. In terms of Arizona, we saw Katie Hobbs being nominated for the Democrats and KARI Lake being nominated for the Republicans. Originally, she was down, but I think a lot of people recognize that these late ballots tend to be more Republican and more right-wing when it comes to the Republican primary ballots itself, and that's what we saw. These are more election day votes, which KARI Lake won. And she even won Maricopa County, she was losing for most of the election. So she won pretty much every county here. And that is a pretty strong result. I think, a lot of people were campaigning for her opponent. And the polls, while they did show her winning by more, I think that the fact that she's near 50% is not the worst result ever. Going into a general election, she's not the best candidate. She could end up losing this race for the Republicans. But I think at the end of the day, the quality of the year for Republicans might end up saving her, like I said. And of course, Republicans may do worse than they were going to do before, but I still think they're going to have a good year, and KARI Lake may survive because of that. Blake Masters, similar thing. He won pretty much every county. He actually won by a larger margin, but he did get a lower percentage of the vote, and he did lose one county to Jim Lamont. And so, that is pretty notable as well. You have a similar amount of votes here, which was more than the Democrats here. But I guess the Democratic primaries were not as contested as the Republican primaries. But Blake Masters did win. He's also not the best candidate come the general election. Republicans, I also believe, do not nominate the best candidate for the Secretary of State race as well, which currently is a Democratic-held race. In Michigan, we saw Tudor Dixon get nominated. Tudor Dixon is, not as bad as I think some people make her out to be, but she's not a great candidate, and I certainly don't think she's favored come November. I do think Gretchen Whitmer is favored to win. I'd probably put this race at lean Democrat for now. Of course, Republicans could win it, but as of now, I do think Democrats are favored. Missouri, we saw Eric Schmidt beat the other Eric Greitens, who actually came in third, which is really not a strong result here. And that's going to be a safe Republican race come November. And then the final race here, or the final state that we're going to look at, is the state of Washington, where we see Patty Murray, who is not going to be in, a competitive race come November, but some people say this could be close, and I agree with that. She is at 53% right now. She'll probably go down from that. I think that, as we have more ballots counted, she will go down, but at the end of the day, she still has, a decent enough result. Secretary of State, this is going to be a very interesting race. Currently, the Independent is in second place here. I think the Republican may overtake her, but that said, it's very interesting here. The Democrat is currently at 40.7%. We have another Democrat at 7.9%, but I think that this could be a pretty competitive race come November. This was a race or a seat formerly held by a Republican who I think joined the Biden administration And so this should be an interesting race there. In the 3rd district, we have Jamie Herrera-Buehler, who looks like she's going to lose to Joe Kent. She's currently leading by 0.1 percentage points when over 95% reported, but we do have, I think, 30,000 ballots left to count, and they have been leading to Joe Kent, and it looks like he's going to overtake her, go against Marie Perez in November. That's another pro-impeachment Republican that has lost. However, Dan Newhouse seems to have survived against Lauren Culp in the 4th district. So one impeachment Republican survives, one impeachment Republican goes down. Kim Schreier has fallen below 50% in this race. So adding up all the Democrats, she nears 50%, but as these ballots get counted a little bit more, she's probably going to fall a little bit, meaning she'll probably be at around maybe 46%, 47%, something like that. So that's going to be another very competitive race come November. And the one thing I actually did forget is the 3rd congressional district, where Peter Meijer, another pro-impeachment Republican, did lose. You had a lot of Democrats funding Peter Meyer's opponent. There's a lot of stuff going on. People criticize Democrats for that, but at the end of the day, Peter Meijer has lost, and this is a race that actually could flip to the Democrats come November. Wouldn't have flipped with Peter Meijer, but John Gibbs, I think that it could flip. But those are all of the very important races, I would say, when it comes to the August 2nd primaries that we saw. But this is another interesting primary day. It's one of the biggest primary days that we have left, and we had a lot of interesting results. The impeachment Republicans did not do very well. Trump had a pretty decent night, but if you're Republican overall, I guess you can't really say you're happy, especially given the Kansas result. So I guess it's a mixed bag overall, but it depends who you are, and there's a lot of things to be looking at in these races. But at the end of the day, you can't extrapolate too much from primaries. And really, the general election campaign is going to matter the most, and we will see that materialize in the upcoming months. It's just over 3 months now to Election Day. It is getting very, very close. We have some more primaries that I'll continue to cover. I'll make some more predictions, and I'll have a lot of videos coming soon. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But again, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.